Parshas Vayakel Pekudei, double Parsha this week. So we find the phrase repeated often in Parshas Pekudei. Kasher Tziva Hashem es Moshe. Hashem commanded Moshe. Talks about in multiple places how Moshe made the Pekudei Kodesh for Aaron HaKohen. Kasher Tziva Hashem es Moshe. That he put the stones into the shoulders of the ephod. Kasher Tziva Hashem es Moshe. With the Ketones, the Avnei, the Mitznefes, Kasher Tziva Hashem es Moshe. It's a phrase repeated a little bit by some of the Klei HaMikdash as well. It's an oft-repeated phrase in the Parsha. So we spoke last year, Parshas Chukos. One idea is maybe that, I think the Brisker Rav said, the Vart, that the Egel, in a certain sense, came from a lack of just following what Hashem said and maybe a drive to innovate, a lack of that hachna'ah, of that humble, just doing whatever Hashem says the way Hashem said it. And maybe this was part of the tikkun to make sure everything is exactly, you do what Hashem says, you don't try to innovate, you don't try to change, you do what Hashem says. Ayin Shan, you can listen there. A different approach, Rav Homaner brings in his Sefer, from the Sefer Mailas HaTorah, an idea that every prat of the mitzvah has every specific of the mitzvah, every piece of it is a mitzvah by itself. The Medrash tells us Moshe was zocheh to vayikra el Moshe in the beginning of the next sefer, because with every prat to be called by Hashem, because with every aspect of the Mishkan, he did it to Mekayim, the mitzvah of Hashem. That's why it keeps repeating Kasher Tziva Hashem es Moshe, because with every aspect he had in mind to do it for the mitzvah, Kasher Tziva Hashem es Moshe. We find a similar concept by the Akedah. Hashem says, Kach es bincha, es yechedcha, asher hafta es Yitzchak. And Hashem tells him, take your only son, your only son, who you love, Yitzchak. Chazal tell us, Rashi brings, to give schar on every dibur, on every step. Similarly, it says to go to Eretz HaMoriah, to bring it all on one of the mountains, that Hashem keeps doing it step by step to give schar on every step. Find the same thing, go to Nineveh, and I'm going to tell you what to say when you get there. It says, Mishnah tells Hashem wanted to give Klai Yisrael chusim, therefore he gave them much Torah and mitzvahs. Because every word of Torah and every piece of it is a mitzvah. We spoke about this once before, a very beautiful piece. And so every word of Torah is a mitzvah by itself, and every piece of this is a mitzvah by itself. So the more Torah, the more instructions, each piece is a mitzvah by itself. Find the Torah details, the Hachnosos Orchim of Amram Avinu in Parshas Vayera, that he sat at the tent, he lifted up his eyes, he saw, he ran, he took a little water, he washed their feet, he sat them under a tree, he gave them some bread, he fed them, and he hurries, he gets cattle. It goes through every little detail, because every little piece of this is its own mitzvah. The Torah is coming and teaching us that when we do mitzvahs, it's not just, we have one big action and that's one mitzvah, but rather we have many little pieces sometimes, and each piece can really be viewed many times as its own mitzvah. And at least in this context, where a person keeps doing things, L'Shem mitzvah, L'Shem the Ratzon Hashem, they keep doing many different mitzvahs. Avram kept doing different actions, L'Shem chesed. He kept doing different actions, L'Shem taking care, bringing his son as a karban, and Moshe kept doing different pieces of the Mishkan, L'Shem Shemayim, and each part was a mitzvah b'fnei atzma. In a connected vein, there's a pasuk in Parshas Vayakel in Perek Lamed Hey pasuk Chavav that talks about the women whose hearts uplifted them, and they spun the goats. Fascinating idea that while the goat hair was on the goats, that's how they spun it, so that it would come out the freshest. So the Zohar of Homaner brings that when they did the avoda, they would say Dala Mishkan Tasha, Dala Mishkana, Dala Parochta. They'd say this one's for the Mikdash, this one's for the Mishkan, this one's for the Paroches. They would do this so that every time that they were doing this, the Kedusha would rest on what they were doing. By proclaiming that it's for the Mishkan, with each action, they would add tremendous Kedusha to the action. And the Machzis HaShekel on the Shulchan Aruch writes this Yesod in Siman Reish Nun Aleph, that when when a person buys things l'kavod Shabbos, he should say l'kavod Shabbos, says the Magen Avraham. And the Machzor explains because it adds kedusha, it's marbe kedusha when you say it. Meaning you make this specific move as a mitzvah, and by proclaiming it as a mitzvah, it adds kedusha to it. It's a worthwhile thing to articulate it verbally. It's pol harbe b'kedusha. And hopefully this will be something that we'll be able to do. We'll be able to look for opportunities for mitzvahs and find mitzvahs and make them into mitzvahs by capitalizing on different actions and doing them l'shem mitzvah, and thereby and articulating it and elevating ourselves and bringing more kedusha and connection to Hashem into our lives. Have a good, wonderful Shabbos.